All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, all of you, for joining us, and good afternoon from Aspire's office here in South Arlington. We are here today as part of our Achieving After School virtual celebration. This is the second of three virtual conversations that we're having this month to celebrate our Achieving After School and all that our students are accomplishing. My name is Paula Fynboh, and I am Aspire's new executive director. It is a delight to virtually meet all of you. I have a few housekeeping items before we get started with our program today. One is that while this is a webinar, we are unable to see you, but please let us know that you're here by typing your name, where you're coming from in the chat function. And we will also have time at the end of today, at the end of our conversation, to take some questions. So if you have questions for us or for our panelists, please put those in the chat functions. And I would be remiss if I didn't share that what you're going to be listening to today is actually one of the webinars that I was most excited about as we listen to our panelists talk about what it means to bridge the opportunity gap and what that means in the lives of our students and the impact that we can make together. This conversation is part of our month-long Achieving After School celebration. We are halfway through our month, and I am beyond delighted to share that we have had over 170 supporters to our Achieving After School celebration. And we're almost halfway there, but well over halfway to our fundraising goal of we are at $62,000, and we are getting closer to our goal of $110,000 with 2 weeks remaining. There are so many wonderful ways that you can support Aspire and our work, but if you have not yet done so, we invite you to make a difference today by contributing to our Achieving After School. And you will see that link posted in the chat. And I know this is going to be a very thoughtful and engaging conversation about how we all can come together to close the opportunity gap for our young people here in Arlington. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to Tannia Talento. Tannia is a Aspire board member and also the former Arlington Public Schools Board chair. Tannia will be moderating our virtual conversation today. Tannia.
Thank you, Paula, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time from what we know is a busy time of year and your busy afternoon to join us for really what I think is going to be just a wonderful conversation and discussion. And we have some wonderful panelists joining us today. But I wanted to start with why the opportunity gap is personal to me, why I believe that this particular discussion in our Aspire celebration is so important. As many of you may know or may not know, I guess, my parents immigrated here from Guatemala. And my family was low income growing up here. And I was Latina, I was Hispanic, and I grew up in mostly working class and minority neighborhoods. And I didn't fully understand what the opportunity gap was in its definition, but I knew and felt that I had to work harder for everything that I achieved, and that my ability to access opportunities was going to be a much tougher pathway to that. And so it has really impacted who I am today, how hard I work, my intention to always operate at 150%, so that if I have a bad day, I'm operating at 100%, because I don't feel like I'm gonna get the passes that maybe others get, or that I'm gonna get the understanding, or that people are going to trust me to excel or be experienced or be knowledgeable in the work that I do. And all this stems from the discussions, the challenges, everything that comes with the opportunity gap in the US, and I expect around the world, but I was born here. So, this is the only experience I know. I'm bicultural, Latina, and so I've used all those identities to help me navigate and grow who I am. And this is just me at 45 years old in this country without a pandemic, without a social awakening. I can't imagine, or I can only start to imagine the impact that our children are facing today. And this is why I think it's more important than ever for us to have programs like Inspire, but to also have these conversations and really work together in the community. I do believe that it takes a village to raise our children in our community. Aspire is part of that village, and with our partnerships with Arlington Public Schools and other organizations, and most importantly, our supporters and donors, I really think we're making a difference. So I'm so excited and really honored to work with the panelists today. We have with us today Angel Lopez Soto, who is an Arlington Public Schools teacher at Randolph Elementary and also an Aspire alumnus. So that is just always exciting when we have someone who went through our program here to talk about who they are today and the wonderful work that they're doing. One of my favorite people when I was in APS, Principal Carlos Ramirez, who is the principal at Randolph Elementary. And finally, Anna Faulkner, who is the program manager for Aspire After School Learning. So with that, we're going to get started because we say in Spanish, time is gold, and which really means we want to appreciate every moment we have. So I'm going to start with the first question. And as I mentioned, the opportunity gap is defined in many different ways. But for today's discussion, when we say the opportunity gap, we're really talking about the fact that the arbitrary circumstances in which people are born, such as race, ethnicity, the zip code where they live, their socioeconomic status, determines their access to opportunities in life. And rather than all people having the chance to access and achieve to their best of their potential, these factors make an impact and not generally a positive one. And so I really wanted to talk a little bit about that, but rather than focus on the definition, I would like to talk about the very real and personal impact that the opportunity gap has on young people's dreams. And Angel, you are a former Aspire student and now a teacher working with Aspire students. I wanted to ask if you had a story, whether a personal story, a story with one of your students, or something that you would like to share that highlights the impact that the opportunity gap has and the difference that programs like Aspire can make.
Yes, thank you so much for the introduction. I want to start talking about how I came to this country. I came when I was 8. I came to the 2nd grade from Mexico. And I knew it was going to be hard. I knew the academics were going to be hard. I knew learning a new language was going to be hard. But what shocked me the most was the culture. It was completely different. For a while, I had a sense that I did not belong. I felt like I did not belong academically. I felt like I did not belong anywhere. And I am so grateful and blessed that my parents found a place like Aspire. Back then, it used to be Greenbrier. They gave me a sense that I belong not only in my school in Arlington, but in the United States. I remember going after school with my friends and my sisters, and they gave me the support to feel confident about going back to school the next day. They also helped my family navigate through the Arlington school system, and I felt like Aspire complemented so well with all the wonderful things Arlington Public Schools were doing, and they were able to guide me. They also helped me discover new things that were not only academics. They took us on awesome field trips. They had awesome clubs after school. I remember when we came, we had like a small dinner together, and that sense of community and getting to know your neighbors and getting to know other students and other grade levels meant a lot to me. I think, reflecting back at my time as a student, now as a teacher who has students who are in elementary school, there is so much that goes into student success. Student success is not only their reading level, their math level, their assessment. Student success is how they feel. And something that I try to do for my students and that Aspire and Arlington did for me They made me feel welcome, and they made me feel like I belong. And I can express how thankful I am for that. They build this sense of community, which for people like me was so important. For my family, it was so important. Something else that inspired it is that they build this great foundation. I was there from 2nd to 5th grade. They built this great foundation in math and reading and writing and in my confidence. They got me to love school. I love it so much that I haven't left school. I went to middle school, high school, college, and now I'm in school again. So that great foundation, that great confidence all came from the sense of belonging. So I just want to thank all of you so much that you keep doing this for other students. I know how much it meant to me. I know how much it meant to my family. And it makes me so happy and emotional that this is going on for other students like me. So thank you for making students feel like they belong in this country.
Angel, thank you so much for sharing that. Really, it's just really wonderful to hear about your experience, your challenges, and the support systems that allowed you to overcome them, and the impact that Aspire had, and the impact that you're making today. So really, thank you for your service. I want to take that opportunity right now. I know our teachers have one of the hardest jobs today, so thank you for that. And with that, and also I noted that there's a question from one of our attendees, and I want to let everyone know that we're going to try to leave room at the end for questions, but we're going to start with just a couple questions. So I did want to move to you, Principal Ramirez. Hearing Angel's on his story reflected in the work that you do at Randolph and in how he was inspired and now he is inspiring students. How do you see that reflected in what you are doing as a principal and the work that you do at Randolph?
Thank you, Ms. Talento. Hello, everyone. One thing that I would like to say is I feel so proud to be the principal of Randolph Elementary and to be Angel's supervisor. As I always say, teachers don't work for me, they work with me because I work with them. And Angel definitely represents the reason why we do what we do on a daily basis, which is to help students become the very best version of themselves, like I always say, every single day. I feel like Angel's story basically represents not only what schools do, but also what community organizations like Aspire do to make sure that they build the whole child. Schools cannot do it alone, right? We do a lot, but definitely thanks to partnerships like this one that we have with Aspire Learning, we're able to do so many things, especially to bridge the opportunity gap. And this opportunity gap, unfortunately, has widened a lot and significantly during the pandemic. We were able to see students who, thanks to Aspire, were able to stay connected during the virtual learning times. They were able to feel part of a community of learners, even though they were not physically present in schools, but they were at Aspire and they were also being helped to continue to love learning and to continue to advance their learning, because simply we cannot ever give up as educators, as community partners, because we never know who's in our hands and where that person is gonna go. And like Angel, who loved learning so much since the moment that he got to this country and felt that he belonged, that there was a purpose for him to continue going, is because that's a reason why we do what we do. Because we never know if in our hands is the next president of the United States, right? Or the next teacher who's gonna be helping our students. This is something that we just don't do right now for the sake of doing. We do it for the future. We do it for the community, because these are the people, just like Angel, who received all of this support and now he's giving back to the community. And that's the main reason why we do what we do. So Angel, congratulations. I honestly did not know your entire story. I'm so proud to have you at Randolph, and thank you everybody for having me here. And thank you for participating with us at Randolph in making sure that we help students after school develop this love for learning.
Thank you, Principal Ramirez. I really appreciate you sharing that. I did want to send it over to Anna Faulkner. And Ms. Faulkner, as we all know, the opportunity gap has always existed. But unfortunately, it really has gotten wider over the last year and a half due to the pandemic. And, you know, I think it's much bigger than just schools. The pandemic has had multiple environmental factors impact all of our children, but with our students who are already in the opportunity gap cohorts, those impacts were multiple and heavier. And I wanted to ask you, how can we come together now when the support from our community is needed more than ever to bridge the gap for our students who deserve to fulfill their full potential? And before that, if you could just touch a little bit on what Aspire does, because we're all on the panelists, we know what Aspire does, but we may have people watching that really don't understand the ins and outs of our program. But we have actual AmeriCorps volunteers in our schools working with students. And then they're the same people coming into the after school program working with students. So could you just touch briefly on that and then go to the question of how can we come together now to really bridge gap with the work that Aspire is doing?
Sure, thank you, Tannia. So at Aspire, we really believe in a three-tiered approach where it's important for schools and parents and other community supports like Aspire to come together to support the whole child in the most holistic way possible. So we have AmeriCorps members in the school volunteering every day or several days a week so that we know what's going on in the school. So if a student is falling behind, or we can catch that quickly, or we know what the teachers are teaching, so we can complement or supplement their teaching with what we're doing after school, and in different creative ways that maybe like teachers don't have time for during the school day, but we can be a little bit more creative with sometimes, just because we don't have the limitations of standardized tests and everything that schools have to do during the day. So that's one of the big things we do. And we also try to connect parents with schools. So sometimes parents, especially parents from immigrant communities, are mistrustful of organizations, and but we have been able to build relationships with those parents. And so sometimes we're able to connect parents with teachers. We're able to help parents understand report cards. We're able to help parents know how to help their students better at home with like connecting them with what their teachers are doing and letting them know what we're doing at Aspire. So that's the main way that we help. And then of course we focus on literacy and reading with students every day, and then helping with homework or any kind of academic activities that students might be struggling with in school. And then, as I said, trying to build in those creative activities that foster curiosity and build experiences for students to wander outside of their like everyday lives.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I did want to ask all of our panelists, you know, as I said, we can't do this work alone. And how can we come together now? How can we bridge a gap for our students who deserve to fulfill their full potential when the support from our community is needed more than ever? Because as I said, when I started, it takes a village, and I really believe that. You know, what are some thoughts on that? How can we come together now as a community, as a school system, as partners, as Aspire, to really help bridge the opportunity gap? Principal Ramirez, can I start with you?
Absolutely. One thing that I was actually going to say was I am a firm believer of the African adage that says it takes a village to raise a child, right? We do a lot in the schools, like Anna just said, right? But we do have some constraints, right? Time and SOLs and all of that, right? And we do it beautifully, and we do it the very best way that we can do it. We provide all of the supports for students, but we know that it is also in the support that students have after school to be able to reinforce the things that they learn during the day, to be able to have a friendly human being next to them saying, you know what, you learned multiplications this morning, right? Okay, great. Let me see how I can actually help you remember what you learned this morning. Is this the way that your teacher taught it? Well, let me show you another way. It's basically making sure that the child gets everything that they need, not only academically, but also socially and emotionally as well. Simply because of this, many families just don't have the time to be able to support their children after school. They might not have the time, they might not have the resources, they might not even have the language to be able to access the curriculum so that they can actually sit next to their child and say, let me show you how to do multiplication in English, right? And so by having Aspire as one of the so many partners that we can actually count on, so that we can then say, okay, this is what we are learning, this is what we are teaching, this is what I would love for you guys to be able to reinforce in the afternoon. Teachers are always working in conjunction with Aspire Learning. And like I said, this is just not a daily thing. This is something that goes beyond a daily thing. This impacts children year after year. This impacts them for life. And, talking about the AmeriCorps volunteers, the beauty of Aspire is that kids don't just go to them. They send their own people to us, right? And so year after year, we get 1 or 2 Aspire AmeriCorps volunteers who come to us and say, how can we help you? We normally say, what are your strengths? And whether it is reading or math or science, we immediately match them up with students that we know need that extra helping hand. And then matches are made, and then the additional support starts being given. So I honestly believe that this is something that we are doing to benefit society in the long run. And if we didn't do this, it would be a huge disservice to our students, to our society in the long run as well, especially when we are dealing with students who are the most vulnerable because they just don't have the means to be able to access additional resources after school.
Thank you so much, Principal Ramirez. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness and detail in your answer. Angel, would you want to add anything? How can we come together now and help bridge the gap for our students? Knowing that we really need to work with the community and with our partners, and from the perspective of a teacher.
What I remember is the collaboration between school, parents, and Inspire. One of the things that comes to mind is when my parents first received a report card, they had no idea what a report card was. They knew that I got grades, but for example, in Mexico, we go from 1 to 10 for grades. They don't have letter-based grades. So for that, my parents were very surprised. Inspire will collect the report cards and walk the parents through the report cards. And at that time, I didn't like it because I didn't want my parents to understand my grades. But now reflecting on it, that meant so much to them because they were able to support me even more at home because they were able to understand what I was missing. So it was those little things like reading a report card with a parent that really helped close that gap, because it's not the parent's fault that they don't know how to read a report card or read an IEP. And those things really help our community be most successful in school. There's a quote that I heard once, and I'm gonna get the math wrong, but it is students might be 20% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And Aspire is making sure that our future is strong in Arlington and in this committee. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate it. And I resonate with you when you say that you didn't want your parents to know about your report card. I was the same way. If I could protect the possibility of damage control in my house, since my parents didn't fully understand the American education system, I worked on that. But in hindsight, and being now a community leader, parent engagement is key to so much of student success and support. And I think that is definitely a strength that Aspire brings, is that parent education and engagement. So I'm really grateful that you shared that story, because I definitely related. And you know, it sometimes there's this idea that parents, because they don't understand, they don't care. But that's never been the case. Even in my own family, it was a constant question. Even my father came here and he worked a night shift, and then also went to school to get a certification in drug and alcohol counseling, and is still a drug and alcohol counselor till this day at 81 years old, working in DC. So, but that's how important education was in our family, that it was something throughout. So I really appreciated you sharing that, Anna, very much, because it really resonated. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything, but after this, we'll go to any questions that the audience may have. But it's really just been a wonderful and thoughtful conversation. And I would love to hear your perspective as the Aspire program manager.
Mm-hmm. I think I echo everything that Principal Ramirez and Angel said. Parents are very grateful just to have sometimes somebody just to explain something as simple as a report card to them. But another thing that we try to do is help parents like stay connected with things that are changing really rapidly in the world, like what's going on with technology, how their students are using technology, especially this year when everything changed right away and parents were just like, I have no idea what my students are doing in school because it's all on technology, and a lot of them just didn't have the experience with that before. And so for them to be able to send students to Aspire, where we were able to check up on all of the assignments and make sure that the students were getting work done, it was really profound for a lot of parents and students, because some students would come to us, 20 assignments behind, and it's not because, like you said, it's not because these parents didn't care or because they didn't want their students to succeed. It's just that they didn't have the tools or resources to really understand what they were supposed to be doing or how to make sure they were doing it or how to help them. And like you said, these kids are masters at hiding what they're supposed to be doing. And so it took some tricks of our own for us to figure it out. So I don't know how all the parents were supposed to keep up. So I think it's really, especially this past year, it's been a really unique position for Aspire to be in, to be able to support parents in that way. But I think another way that we've just really been able to support students is socially and emotionally, as so many students are isolated. And even now, having students come into the program that didn't spend last year with us, I can see a big difference in how they interact with others and just know how to behave collectively anymore. And it's, teaching little people how to be little people with each other again. And that's really important. And that's just something that we're able to spend time on. And having these AmeriCorps members who act as mentors and in this space, which is a third space for them, and it's another adult that cares about them. It's part of those developmental assets that really ensure success in their future. So it does give them confidence, and it does give them aspirations that they might not seek because they're exposed to new and different things. And so I'm just always amazed at like what our AmeriCorps brings to our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shannon, Ms. Faulkner. I really, really appreciate you sharing that. And really to Carlos and Angel as well, it's really been just such a rich and impactful for me discussion. But we do have a couple more minutes before we have to start closing it out. And we do have a question from someone in the community. So I did, or in our audience. And so I think we've answered a little bit about this, but I wonder if we can even get even more zeroed in. So the question is, what can the community, APS, county, caregivers of all sorts, nonprofits, service organizations, faith community do to help children be better prepared for school in the first place? And so, I know we've shared a little bit about that, but what are your thoughts? Is there anything else that you would add? Just be better prepared in the first place, I guess, before they come to us, or every morning before they see us. And I'm happy to start us off. And for me, I think sometimes something as simple as being seen. A lot of times organizations and nonprofits and faith-based communities and all really people who are hoping to do better and make a change, when they look at children who are in the opportunity gap, they almost see them as an object or a number or something they have to help. But sometimes, and I know that sounds, I don't know if I can express this, like see them as the future teacher, as your future grandchild's mentor, as your future doctor, as your future podiatrist, as your future mechanic, as your future small restaurant owner. See them as who they're going to be. Because I think sometimes we lose sight of that, and we engage every day with, like, who's not looking for the, the best of something, of a service industry, whether it's medical or legal, or even home care. Oh my God, home care, right? So just and that can start with just when you're walking down the street in Arlington and you see one of our children, just smiling and saying hello and wishing them a great day, or just, saying, I don't know, just that welcoming of, I see you. I think that it starts, I think one of our panelists said, making people feel welcome. I heard that a lot today, has an impact just as much as the academic support and high quality education does. And so I don't know, I'll go to Principal Ramirez. Is there anything that you think they could do that would just to get them started?
So it's the little things, it's the small details. It's not a massive effort. I believe that it's things such as, just like you were saying, feeling seen, feeling welcome. One thing that I do every single day is stand at the front door, and Angel has seen me, and I welcome profusely every single student. Welcome, welcome back. Today's the third day of the week. Welcome back. Friday, welcome back. It's Monday. It's gonna be a great week. Are we gonna have a great day? It's setting the tone, making sure that the child feels energized right at the get-go, right? But at the same time, it's also making sure that we allocate the resources available in the county to make sure that students get all of their social emotional needs met. And by that, I mean, the counseling department has been doing a lot of the footwork in teaching a lot of the social emotional lessons that the county has provided us with, and making sure that students understand or relearn how to be in school again, because they had to learn all of a sudden to be in school using a screen, but now they have to, again, learn how to be back in school and how to do things in school and how to manage themselves in school. And now they're not just at home or maybe in Aspire with a few other kids. Now they have 500 other kids that they have to share the same space with. And that is a challenge in itself. And it's not, there's no magic potion for that. It's just the day-to-day work. It's making sure that they understand that we believe in them. Like I always said, and then you just mentioned it, I always see them as the future congressman and the future lawyer, the future Supreme Court justice. And every time I talk to a child, even if that child has misbehaved or made inappropriate choices, I always treat them with respect and dignity, because they're the human beings who will be taking care of us when we are no longer able to take care of ourselves. So it's that specific thing. It's making sure every single day that they feel welcome. It's having morning meetings in the class. saying welcome to each other, saying, I'm so glad to see you again. What are some of the things that you would like to share today? Making sure that students feel welcome, because once they have that social emotional piece taken care of, they are available for learning.
Thank you so much, Principal Ramirez. Really appreciate that answer and the thoughtfulness of it. I completely agree with everything that you said. Angel, is there anything that you would like to add to that, Mr. Lopez?
I agree with everything my principal said. One more thing I would like to add is making sure students feel confident. Giving a little compliment can go a long way, even a high five, or now we do elbow. Building confidence and giving those little compliments and saying you did a nice job, they lights them up and it motivates them to keep going. So that's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And there is, Anna, I'm going to ask, I think this question is going to go to you, Ms. Faulkner, but please feel free to add if there's anything else that you think how other organizations can help prepare students just in the first hand. But this next question says, first they said a great inspiring panel. So thank you again, panelists. And it says, are the students mainly referred to you by the schools? But feel free to answer the first question. I just want to honor our time because I think that's the last question we'll be able to take for this discussion.
I do want to echo what Principal Ramirez and Angel said. I think that giving students confidence and giving them space to be seen and to see each other is just so important. And that's why we do kind of our version of morning meeting at Aspire. We call it MAT meeting every day, but teaching kids to stop and listen to each other and see each other and feel part of a community. And I think Angel was saying it before, but how Aspire really helped him feel like he belonged here. And I think that's really powerful for students to succeed. And so giving them that foundation of community is really important. And I think Aspire does that really well. For your other question, yes, we do get a lot of students referred by the schools. A lot of it is just word of mouth, like parents will tell other parents. But a lot of times it's, especially after we have core members in the schools, and teachers will say, oh, I heard that you're doing this. Can you help this student? And we do get a lot of students that way.
And just for our audience who are new to Aspire, our students at Aspire, they do not pay for services. It is completely free. And we actually have a waiting list for some of our programs. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Especially our middle school program right now, which is a new pilot program this year, but it's at some of our sites, there's a waiting list to get in. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Faulkner. To be frank, I have all these questions now that I could go on and on and on, but we are out of time. So I can't thank you enough, Principal Ramirez and Mr. Lopez, for taking the time today to be with us. And really share a little bit about what Aspire does, and really the great work that's needed, but also the way that we can come together to close the opportunity gaps. Everyone can make a difference every day. I wish there were more programs like Aspire in Arlington, but the brutal truth is that I don't think there's any other program that works like Aspire. I'm providing an after-school environment and the academic support, as well as parent engagement all in one. So I do want to, again, thank our panelists and thank our audience for joining us. I do want to turn it over to our executive director, Paula, so that she can close us out and she can share a little bit about how you can support and grow the work that we have happening today. And really one final thank you and applause to our panelists. It's really been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tannia. And I just want to echo, thank you, Principal Ramirez. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Anna, so much for joining us today and help putting a a human face on the work that Aspire does, why this work is so important, and what that opportunity gap is. A few things that I heard today that really resonated with me is that what we're doing here at Aspire is creating a sense of belonging. Since I joined Aspire in June, I have heard students and families refer to Aspire as their second home, and the honor and just ability to provide that to students and families is really amazing, and we're able to do that thanks to your support. The second is that the pandemic is widening the opportunity gap. The last normal year that our third graders had where they were in person was in kindergarten. The last normal year our fifth graders had was in second grade. We have a lot of work to do, and we are leaning in and showing up every day in our partnerships with Arlington Public Schools, in our work with students and family, and would invite you to be part of that work. Also, Angel's quote is, that students are 100% of our future. And I want you to know that when you donate and contribute to Aspire, you are helping us make a difference in the life of a child today, but you're also investing into the next generation and creating a legacy of learning for our community and for our young people. And we thank you so much. I saw a couple contributions come through on our site since the webinar began, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart. We will share that link again in the chat if you haven't had a chance to contribute. And if you did, but you have family, friends, neighbors, colleagues that you think would like to be part of this work, please share that with them as well. With your support, we're able to make up for that lost learning time. We're able to help close the opportunity gap by reestablishing our programs in our 2 affordable housing sites. By starting a middle school pilot that Anna mentioned, we're able to get our AmeriCorps members in schools like Randolph and be able to provide that robust, individualized, intensive support that our students really need. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today, and I really hope you will join us next Tuesday on October 19th at 10 a.m. We'll put the link to register for that webinar in our chat as well. That will be our third and final virtual conversation as we look to close out our Achieving After School month-long celebration. And next week, you will be able to have the opportunity to hear from Carolina Gasto, who sent her children to Aspire and has been part of Aspire and of Aspire family for many years, to hear the impact that your support is making. So thank you again for joining us. We hope that you will continue to celebrate with us during our month-long Achieving After School celebration. Thank you all.